Yo, what's up, guys? It's Nick Can't Mine here, back with another episode of Meet the Taco Plebs. And today I have the host of the Fun with Bitcoin podcast and the co-host of Simply Bitcoin, Coinicarus. Say what's up, dude.
What's happening, everybody? It's great to be here, Nick. You know what? I'm totally humbled to come and join you on this. This is very cool. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you can come on. For those of you who don't know, I was on Simply Bitcoin's show the other week with Coinicarus, Nico, and My Living Truth, my co-host at Bitcoin Kindergarten, and we all get along really, really well. It was a great show. The link will be in the description, so go over, like it, subscribe, and watch. But I wanted to have Coinicarus on because, believe it or not, this is actually the second time I've interviewed him, because when I first started in the Bitcoin community, I tried to start a podcast, and Coinicarus was my very first guest, and then I got really lazy and I never did it again. But yeah, I've been on his podcast, the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. I actually bought one of his sweatshirts before he changed the logo to the newest logo. So
I appreciate it, man.
I got one of the OG sweatshirts.
You do. You know what? You and me and I think Fartface 2K have the original OG sweatshirts.
Those are scarce.
Yeah, they are. They're scarce.
So
now we just need some proof of work behind it.
So without further ado, what's your rabbit hole story and how'd you get into Bitcoin?
Oh man. All right. Yeah. So let's kick it off. Okay. So my rabbit hole story is one that comes from I came to Bitcoin from the medium of exchange. I had moved and okay. Well, let me ask you this: how personal are we allowed to get?
You can say anything you want.
I can say anything I want, right?
Anything you want.
So I moved from a wonderful place where you can smoke weed and not go to jail, and then I moved to a place where smoking weed sometimes makes you end up in jail. So, and I'm just not a big jail dude. I'm a small guy, and I obviously wanted to avoid that, and I found that there was a lot of friction when it comes to to going and especially moving and trying to find somebody that is not sketchy to sell you weed. And I unfortunately had to turn to going online and finding a medium of exchange that I could possibly use to interact with, and I found Bitcoin. So this was back in like 2016. I probably first really started reading about it in late 2015, but didn't care and found it too complicated, and then had to go back to it in 2016 because I got tired of meeting people locally. So anyways, that I came to it from the medium of exchange, and I totally missed a lot of accumulation with Bitcoin because all I did was actually use it. So I have spent more Bitcoin than I care to actually tell anyone, and on something that just literally went up in smoke. So I'm happy to say my Bitcoin doesn't go there anymore, and I've since been able to stack. But yes, this is what brought me to it, and from there I started getting interested in Bitcoin itself. It just completely blew my mind that I actually received a product after handing an entity, digital currency. So it just totally blew my mind, and I started to read more about Bitcoin, and unfortunately, I ended up finding shit coins. And at the time I was on, and people are going to make fun of me for this, but I was on Facebook, and all I found were Facebook crypto groups. And those are a cesspool of garbage. And everybody there is a shit coiner with the exception of very few people, and they don't speak up enough. And yeah, I ended up tumbling down the shitcoin, the shitcoin rabbit hole. And that was bad. And I lost a lot of money buying useless garbage tokens. And that was in 2017 when we had our nice run up. So I actually watched Bitcoin go from like $400 to close to 20K. And all this time I was hodling and trading shitcoins, not realizing, it was interesting. I knew that Bitcoin was, was the real deal, but I constantly tried to convince myself that I could make more Bitcoin if I traded shitcoins. And I am not talented in that respect. And
Neither am I.
And I just lost, man, I lost, thousands of dollars, and I learned a very valuable lesson. And then once we peaked and started to pull back, I reassessed my situation. I started to dig into Bitcoin only. And I was able to dismantle one by one, all of my previous assertions, as to, why the tech makes a difference, or why the transaction speed makes a difference. I was able to start destroying all of these garbage narratives against Bitcoin and, had my aha moment and realized, oh my God, I need to stack this hard. Yeah, that's my story up until, up until, let's say, until the light went on.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. When you said that you were trying to find a way to get weed and you didn't want to meet people in person, what made you want to go to the internet? Like, how were you, when you said you were looking for an alternative currency, were you already aware of Bitcoin, or did you know of something that made you think, oh, I can get weed online in a way?
So I had heard of Mount Gox, right? And I had heard of I had heard of Silk Road. So there was already that aspect of it, and I knew I knew already that you could purchase many different things online with Bitcoin, but I really knew very little about it, and I pretty much the way I saw it was, to me, that was the only answer that I possibly had when I knew nothing about it, right? So I was like, okay, there's this currency online that supposedly actually works, and I need to understand it better. So believe it or not, I actually tried like 2 or 3 times and just gave up because I found it too complicated, and I was just like, nah, anything this difficult is not going to work. And I just walked away. So that story about how it takes like 6 to 10 touches with Bitcoin before you get that aha moment? That was me. Yeah, that was me 100%. It took at least 6 touches before I was like, oh my God, this thing works.
So you've definitely come a long way since you got into Bitcoin. Just from talking to you over these past couple of years and getting to know you a little bit better. But for our audience, can you explain how Bitcoin has changed your life personally?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I would say, so you know what? I was always kind of slightly afraid to, go for what I want entirely. Always this kind of leaving yourself an out. And Bitcoin in that respect has changed me. It's actually, or it's allowed me to, see reality the way I truly want to see it, and just really go all in, so to speak. And I'm not just talking about Bitcoin, but just go all in with your passions and your desires and what it is that you want out of life. I had always been a low time preference person, even though I didn't know this term, right? We learn all these great terms when we get into Bitcoin. I felt like a moron. Like when I got into Bitcoin, everyone's like low time preference, high time preference, narratives, all this stuff. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? And, without even knowing it, I was a low time preference individual. I've always been patient, and I've always been willing to work towards a goal, but I've always, it's like I was never 100% sure of myself in working towards anything. And being in Bitcoin has really helped me develop that, the certainty in myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that as well. Just thinking, oh, well, what if I'm wrong about this, or what if it doesn't work out the way I want it, or what if, people don't like it and they make fun of you, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like you completely change and you're like, nah, I'm going after this because this is what I want, and this is what's going to make me happy and most beneficial. So fuck everything else,
Oh, 100%. It really it really does, and it's kind of like the ethos, around Bitcoin, because, right? If you just reading about Bitcoin, what do you learn? You learn that it doesn't matter what happens; it churns out another block, rain or shine, happy or sad, whether your life is fucked or not. Bitcoin churns out another block. And you know what? You kind of have to be that ruthless in life if you really want to be able to, take hold and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just move forward. And Bitcoin really is kind of that embodiment.
That's one thing I've noticed since getting into the Bitcoin community is I started looking at, okay, what are the key differences between some of the more successful people and unsuccessful people? And the more unsuccessful people have the traits of they constantly doubt themselves, they're not hardworking, they try and be super nice to everyone, and get upset when they don't get their way, blah blah blah. But the successful people, which I see a lot in Bitcoiners, is they don't give a shit what anyone says. They work as hard as they can and would go above and beyond to work extra, not just working hard, but working smart to achieve their goals. And they don't care what anyone thinks. Like, they'll go get what they want. They'll be toxic. And I think toxicity is super important. Like, I loved how Michael Saylor said that he kind of coined the meme of cyber hornets, because I love it. I love the cyber hornets. I think like that's the type of energy I want to be. I want to be surrounded by, and especially with my money. But it's like the people who are cyber hornets are not only great people, but they're very hardworking and successful people, both career and financially.
Yeah, again, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? You want to surround yourself with the kind of people that, kind of motivate you and bring you up, right? It's got to be reciprocal. One thing I wanted to mention about what you said also is that a lot of times, when you find people so success is it's all in the, just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is success, right? Success is relative to each individual person. I may not see you as a success, but it doesn't matter what I think. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It matters what you think about your life and where you want it to go. So a lot of people that, aren't successful, quite oftentimes they make excuses for all the reasons that things don't work out instead of coming up with solutions as to why things can work out. The one piece of this where there's a caveat, okay, is positive toxicity, okay, where somebody is so positive that it's absolutely insane and stupid and it's actually detrimental, right? Because let's face it, not every situation is always wonderful, right? The whole key is in the way that we handle it. And I just get kind of afraid sometimes, because sometimes I do see this kind of like, it's like you just have to be relentless. And yes, of course, you have to be relentless, but sometimes things aren't meant to be and we have to pivot. And that, handling that failure graciously, that's a healthy positive, not a toxic positive, right? Not beating yourself up.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing you said at the very beginning that I wanted to say is like, you don't like, I feel like a lot of people think that their life is destined for like something like, oh, they're destined to be poor, or they're destined to be rich, they're destined to be whatever. I just say like, your life is out there to go, you carve out your own life. If you want to be rich and you're poor right now, you go put in the work to get rich. You carve out your success. And that goes, for the other way as well. If you're rich, but you're making, you buy 10 Lambos and you're taking flights instead of, driving, or, you just throwing money away, you're going to be poor, and you carved out that life.
Oh, you know what? 100%. And again, it goes, it goes back to this, this thing about, what you put out there, right? Like those books, like The Secret, where people are like, yeah, if you just think about it, you'll manifest it. It's way more than that. And it's kind of disingenuous, right? Because like you said, if you want, if all you want is money, right? But your decisions are constant short term, right? So let's say you decide you want to be rich, but really what you want is to look rich. So you want to have like a really nice, Breitling watch, and you want to have like, overpriced clothes and a very expensive car. Sure, you're going to look like money, right? But those decisions aren't conducive to, to wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're just not, because you're essentially replacing the future wealth that you have with, this stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, you see a lot of that.
Yeah, it's just that fake visualization of wealth. they always got the newest iPhone, or they always got the newest shoes, or they got a 50K car payment, and they're struggling to put food on the table and make ends meet, and then like you look at someone who you think would not be rich. They have an old beat up car, or they wear average clothes that costs a couple dollars a shirt, and they're millionaires.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right. And again, it's so we're also just to be clear, right? We're not talking about, we're not necessarily talking about the people that, that have like 100 million plus.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look, I'm sorry. Like when you're at that stage, if you have the new iPhone all the time, that's not a problem. You're not, you're not trading one for the other. But, we're kind of talking about, I'd say we're talking about people that are building themselves up and trying to create a future. The oftentimes the people that look like they don't have two pennies to rub together are the ones that have the means. So,
yeah,
good point.
Like I always see rappers flexing their wealth. They have a ton of gold chains, they have super nice clothing, all these cars. And to be honest, that doesn't bother me in the slightest, because they make ridiculous amounts of money to the point where they probably don't even know what to do with it. But like they have the wealth. It's just like, there's a ton of people who don't have the wealth, but desperately wish they did so they could, look like that. But moving on to my next question is, what to you is the most amazing thing about Bitcoin?
Okay, you know what? It's gonna totally sound cheesy, but I don't really care. I'm gonna have to say it's the most amazing thing about Bitcoin is the social layer and the shift in incentives. I've never seen so many people come together for something that is not their own. You know what I mean? And to build on it and to contribute to it and to give to it, even if they're incentivized to get something in return, it doesn't matter. I've just never seen so many people do that. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
The quality of people it attracts is always top quality people as well. Like I went to BitBlock Boom earlier this year, and everyone is super nice, super generous, literally treated me like family the entire weekend I was there. And it's just great. It's a great group of people to be around, and they literally push you to be better. Like I know on Bitcoin Twitter, it's always like, stop eating fiat food, eat more meat, go outside and exercise, don't be fat,
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily agree with all of the the dietary regimens, but 100% exercising and watching what you eat and eating healthier food and non-processed foods are that is a good path. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegetarian, but I'm also not an entire carnivore. I totally like to have, dressing with my food.
Yeah, but
I've heard people refer to that as dressing for some reason.
Have you ever met anyone from Bitcoin Twitter in person before?
I have met 3-4 people from Bitcoin Twitter. In 2019, the MIT Bitcoin Expo, I met Pierre, and I met Jeff the Andrew, and I met Billy Garrison, who's he writes some code for Lightning, and I met Justin Moon, who's totally awesome guy. And who else? I even got to meet Pedro once upon a time. I met Pedro, and I met Dan Held.
That's awesome. I also met Justin Moon earlier this year. He's a cool dude.
He's an awesome guy, and he sat down with me for an interview, like right there at MIT Bitcoin Expo. It was really cool. And and I've met from Plebs, I've met 2 Bitcoin plebes which shall remain nameless.
Yeah. I think how early we are into Bitcoin and how nice and good a quality people there are, it's really easy to talk to anyone you want to, whether it be in person or online. Like when I was at BitBlock Boom, it was incredibly easy for me, and like they were very welcome and wanting to talk to me. Like I walked up to Jimmy Song, Parker Lewis, Marty Bent, Matt Odell, like all the people you see on Twitter all the time, like producing great content, doing big things. And then also on the Plebs side, like I met with, Optimus Fields, Nico, Ben the Carmen, and like all of these other amazing plebs. And like, it's just all around great people.
Yeah, it really is. It's again, like you said before, I'd have to say that some of the best people, with the exception of when I skateboarded, more regularly, like those people also, I found that great group of people, because they're very self-motivated. So it makes for very interesting chemistry. And I'd say that Bitcoin definitely has some of the best personalities that I've met. And again, going back to success and failure, a lot of these people that I've met in Bitcoin have pushed me to force me to push myself. So that's also what I like in people that I meet, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That actually goes well with the tweet I did this morning. I was the price of Bitcoin was pumping, and I tweeted out like, I'm starting to get too complacent. You guys need to beat my ass if I, just slow down on my stacking. And everyone's like, you don't have to tell us twice.
Yep. You're going to give them the stick and they're going to hit you with it.
Mm-hmm. And it's for my own personal good,
It is. And it's true. And we shouldn't slow down on the stacking. Like right away, we see a little bump and it's like, all right, that's it. I'm going to slow down. It's like, nope, it's not time to slow down on the stacking.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because every single time I say that after a price increase, I just think to myself, what was I thinking? Why would I ever want to slow down on stacking? You see all the shit that's going on in the world right now. And I need to get as much Bitcoin as possible. And I know you feel the same way.
Oh yeah, we have no safer bet. I mean, it's and again, right? Like it's not just it's not just NGU, but the reality is that Bitcoin is a reflection, right, of our ever inflating poverty creating money. Mm-hmm. So this number going up is simply just all it is like it's like a mirror, to constantly show how the fiat system is breaking. So this is our lifeboat, as you know.
So that leads me perfectly into my next question is, what is your best Bitcoin pitch? I know that can be a difficult question because everyone kind of needs their own specific pitch, but with all that's going on today in the world, it seems that it's easier to pitch now more than ever. I know I was talking with Denver Bitcoin, and he was telling me that he was checking out at the gas station, and he mentioned to the clerk that 22+% of all US dollars that have ever been created were just this year, and he said he got some heads turning in there. And just when you pitch Bitcoin to people, if you do they see it as how we see it, like the revolutionary asset that protects us from inflation, or do they see it as, oh, I can buy low and sell high?
Yeah, I've unfortunately stopped pitching Bitcoin. I'll just let people approach me if they know that I'm into it or something.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, because it's always every single person, with the exception of maybe two or three. They all see it as speculative number go up. And one of my best friends, one of my childhood best friends, who I got him into Bitcoin pretty early, and he right away saw it as a speculative vehicle and immediately didn't see the difference between Bitcoin and other shitcoins, and to this day still thinks it's just a casino. So it's really sad. But essentially, to answer your question, though, my main pitch, and this is the pitch that I've always done, which is probably why I haven't been able to get that many people into Bitcoin, is I always stick to the government money printing, because this is something that affects us all. And from that, I usually try to create a relationship between the value of the person's time and their work and how it's being taken away from them. Because, the key thing, I think, is getting to somebody's core, right? Like the core archetype. Like, you ever notice how movies about the battle between good and evil do amazing, right? They're typical.
Mm-hmm.
good and evil is a very typical, duality is a typical thing as human beings. Like we resonate with these narratives, with these stories. And so if you can, if you can make something resonate with somebody at their core, then they are going to dig into it a little bit more, and that I think that is the challenge, but also the gift of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has so many angles to get at people's core, whether it's their greed angle, whether it's their philosophical angle, whether it's their altruistic angle, whatever it is, Bitcoin has it seems to have an incentive model for it.
Yeah. I also stopped, like I never went out of my way to like promote Bitcoin in real life, but like if people said anything that I could, bring up Bitcoin in, I would, but now I don't do it anymore. And I saw Ye Dieter Bob tweet about this, or I'm pretty sure it was him, and I liked the way he said this. He said like they don't, like, normal people getting into Bitcoin now aren't going to have as much conviction as us right off the bat. So they're naturally just going to shy away from it. Like they need to come to it themselves, it needs to appeal to them after some time, or like some event needs to happen so it appeals to them, and then they can naturally get into Bitcoin and like naturally be curious in it. So I'm not gonna hardcore shill Bitcoin to anyone unless they come to me and seriously say like, I want to learn Bitcoin.
I agree with that. Look, you can see it. I can see it. People come to it with, especially the average person is coming to it with the number go up. Okay. And when you come to it with, the number go up, you definitely are not going to have that much conviction. I mean, we saw it, right? We saw, these, big shots like Dave Portnoy and, Keith McCullough, with his quad stupidity 4, which still makes no sense to anyone but him. And these guys, they thought that like, it's like, sure, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to trade this. I'm going to make some money off of this. Like, this is not, Bitcoin is a hybrid asset. I don't even think there is truly a proper class definition for it.
It's a new class of its own.
Exactly.
That's the way I see it.
I completely agree. It's a protocol, it's a language, it's a store of value. It even has the ability for messaging. I mean, and again, right, we're not sitting here trying to, shill Bitcoin based on its features, but, to go back to the original point, people have to find it for themselves. Otherwise, the only conviction they're going to have is this shallow conviction in number go up. And that gets totally cratered by and I think it's beautiful, Bitcoin's volatility.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That just totally shakes these weak people out. And again, some of them just like us, right? Just like us, when we came in, people got wrecked, they left, and they never came back. But some of us, a good portion of us, stuck around, and we learned, and we built, and we began to contribute, to the community. And now we are part of that hardened layer at the bottom of Bitcoin that doesn't move. So, yeah,
we set the floor.
Yeah, man, exactly right. We set the floor, and now we are waiting for the next ones that are going to come in. Unfortunately, some will get wrecked, but some will stick behind, and they'll become Bitcoin remnants.
Mm-hmm. I like when the OGs call us like I got in 2017, so people will call me class of 2017. I just think that's funny.
Yeah, that's right. We're both class of 2017.
And yeah, so we're nearing the 30-minute mark. So I just have one more question for you and you can get a little bull-tard here. So what is your price prediction for New Year's 2021 and the fourth halving?
Oh my God. I suck at price predictions.
I do as well.
I'm so horrible. My numbers, you know what? I've got the worst numbers. Okay. So, okay. All right. January 2021. I'd like to say like 120, let's say like 125K and above. Okay. That's my realistic type of, viewing of bull-tardedness in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Okay. For the fourth halving, This is kind of tricky. Because that's in like 3 years from now. So
a lot can change in 3 years.
A lot can change in 3 years. And like realistically, okay, if we follow the previous pattern, then technically maybe we'd be at like the, I don't know, like some kind of like 25K region ready to build up, to the next big massive moon bull run. But I read an article which was pretty interesting saying that like because of the amount, because of already what's gone into Bitcoin, and because, quote unquote, the floor is set, we aren't going to pull back as much. So it's quite possible that, maybe I don't know, man, maybe we're sitting at like 250K.
Okay.
Maybe we're at 400K. I don't know. Don't trust my numbers. My numbers suck. This is why I hodl. Because I sucked at trading. I sucked at numbers. My lines aren't good. I don't draw good patterns. They're not pretty, so I just stack.
That's the way. But yeah, so we've come to the end of the interview. I want to thank you for coming on.
I really appreciate it, man. It was awesome.
It's always a good time talking with you.
Yeah, man, me too.
So if you made it to the end of this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as check out all of his links. They'll all be down in the description. The link to Simply Bitcoin, his daily YouTube show with Nico, aka Bitvolt, and also his podcast, the Fun with Bitcoin podcast as well. I've also been on that. It was a great time. So yeah, thank you for coming on, man.
Man, I appreciate it.
So I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Hold on to the pavements. Hate me, love me, for grateful recognition. Her demands like